Hey folks, this is Rhykker with the top 10 best builds in Diablo 4 Season 9. These are the builds that can do the most damage and have the most survivability to push as deep into the pit as possible. Tons of builds are viable at crushing Torment 4 content. I have a separate video, my class tier list, that covers that. Here we're zeroing in on the absolute most powerful builds that can push as far as possible in the pit. You can find my class tier list video as well as my Season 9 Ultimate Guide on my website, Rhykker.com, which brings us to a word from this video's sponsor. I built my website using Squarespace, and I was able to do everything myself quickly and easily and with zero education in the field, all thanks to how easy Squarespace is to work with. Squarespace even has a new AI tool called Design Intelligence, which combines 2 decades of industry-leading web design expertise with the latest AI tech to empower you to build a beautiful-looking, personalized website made exactly for your needs and your unique identity. Squarespace even has optimized SEO tools so that you can launch your website and start getting views as quickly as possible. Squarespace is flexible for any kind of website with tons of design options to pick from. You can easily connect all your social accounts and also upload your video content and organize your video library. You can sell products or services, and with Squarespace Payment, you have an easy way to manage your payments in one place. You're just a few clicks away from being able to receive payments through your website, all while offering customers popular payment methods like Apple Pay, ClearPay, Klarna, and ACH Direct Debit. Basically, if you want to build a website, I recommend Squarespace. So head to squarespace.com/Rhykker or click the link in the description to start your free trial and use code Rhykker to get 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. That's squarespace.com/RHYKKER and use code Rhykker. All right, let's dive into our top 10 list here. Starting with number 10, we have a rogue build, Death Trap. This has been quite the fall from grace for Death Trap. It ranked number 4 in our Season 8 top 10. Now, one of the reasons is that one of the key items, or formerly key items, Eyes in the Dark pants, have been nerfed quite significantly in Season 9. In fact, they are no longer necessary for the build. That's how nerfed they are. Still, the playstyle remains pretty fun. You're blowing up your Death Trap all over the place, and it still does remain the best rogue build all around, in my opinion. If there is one rogue build to play to tackle all content on the game, Death Trap is currently the best. Now I'm going to make a special mention, an honorable mention of Penetrating Shot. For pit pushing, Pen Shot is doing quite well. It may surpass Death Trap. Penetrating Shot is on the rise this season. It's a pretty straightforward build to play, and it's actually a lot of fun. And the real twist with Pen Shot is actually the interaction with the Azurath sword, the updated Azurath. Azurath has, on lucky hit, a chance to deal cold damage. And the top-end pit-pushing version of this build is going to rely on just trying to land those lucky hits as often as possible. But Death Trap and Pen Shot, that is it for the rogue. Now as we move into our number 9 build, we're going to hit the only barbarian build on this list, Lunging Strike. Barbarian, another fall from grace. All the old top barbarian builds are gone. Thankfully, Lunging Strike has emerged to save the barbarian. This is a basic attack build that's going to make use of the Pain Gorger's gauntlets, giving you ranks to basic skill. And when you damage enemies with a non-basic skill, you mark them for 3 seconds, and then when you hit them with a basic skill, that damage is echoed to all marked enemies. So you're going to want to tag a bunch of enemies with a non-basic skill, then hit them with the basic to pull off the wombo combo. The basic being your Lunging Strike, of course. You're going to combine that with the Hooves of the Mountain God boots. A ton of attack speed to basic skills. Plus, casting a basic skill while at max fury causes your fury to increasingly drain until you run out, during which your basic skills now cleave, dealing 100% increased damage. The cleave turns it from a single target into an area of effect attack. Lunging Strike is also a gap closer, so it's a natural mobility skill. Overall, this is a fun barbarian build. That takes us to number 8, a necromancer build, MaiaNashira. That's right, MaiaNashira have made it into the top 10, folks. And this is thanks to the Hand of Naz. This is now a skeletal mage MaiaNashira build. Sacrificing both skeleton warriors and golems grants an additional skeletal mage for each minion sacrificed. When a skeletal mage attacks enemies 25 times without dying, it upgrades to a skeletal archmage. Skeletal archmages teleport to safety when attacked, and their attacks occasionally shatter on impact, dealing 100% increased damage to the target and up to 3 additional targets. Your minions aren't tanking for you anymore. You are the tank for your archmages. And of course, you're going to rock the Ring of Mendeln in here. Ring of Mendeln has gone through quite a journey in D4. It wasn't working properly for a while. I think it's fully working now. And yeah, mandatory item for this build. Increasing your summon attack speed, giving you more ranks to Skeletal Mage Mastery. But the kicker here is every 6th attack from each minion is empowered, dealing a bunch more physical damage. These are the nukes that'll be sent in from your mages. Pure Summoner Necro is not just viable, folks, it is a top build now. That takes us to number 7, a Necromancer build, another one, Blight. This is a shadow damage over time build. Now with this build, you want to rock an Ebon Piercer. Gives you a bunch of ranks to Blight, chance for Blight projectiles to cast twice, also Blight, also shoots 4 smaller projectiles that pierce enemies and deal shadow damage over time. Against single targets, you're able to shotgun enemies if you get the right distance, making all of the projectiles hit the same enemy. That takes us to number 6, the final Necromancer build on our list here, Bloodwave, which has fallen a bit in our ranking. It was rank 2 in Season 8. Despite Bloodwave getting quite the nerf, it still is probably the most powerful Necromancer build. It's also going to be the most versatile in the greatest amount of situations. Bloodwave now makes maximum use of buffs to shadow damage. We're turning it into a darkness skill to activate all the possible synergies. Now, depending on what activity you're going to be doing, Bloodwave, again, it's pretty versatile and you're going to adapt it for speedrunning or easier content, but for pit pushing, it's specifically a shadow damage over time version that is emerging as the top contender. Overpower got gutted, and Overpower was the main source of damage for Bloodwave. Now we're forgetting about overpower damage. We are scaling entirely our damage over time. The gameplay is very different. We don't care about blood orbs anymore. You're laying down desecrated ground on the floor. And that takes us to number 5, a Druid build, Flesh Render. This build uses the Flesh Render unique item. Casting a defensive skill deals a bunch of damage to nearby poisoned enemies, increased by 50% for every 100 willpower you have. So that's the entire playstyle. You're just trying to spam your defensive skills on poisoned enemies to do a bunch of damage around you. So we're talking Earthen Bulwark, Cyclone Armor, Blood Howl, Debilitating Roar. You're spamming these, shouting and roaring until enemies fall over dead. Now, this is a build that's going to perform better and better the longer into a season you go. High gear and paragon requirements, because it scales off, again, off of your willpower. For every 100 willpower you have, you're dealing more damage. And the gearing and synergies here basically come together to just try to reduce the cooldown as much as possible on your defensive skills so that you truly can spam them as often as you can. That takes us to number 4, the top Druid build of Season 9, Pulverize. Pulverize has always been a good early game build for Druid. It's not an amazing build, but it's always been decent. Now for endgame, it is a very powerful build, and it works a little bit differently because you're going to use the new unique, the Rotting Lightbringer. If no puddle is around you, Pulverize forms a puddle. It's going to be a poison puddle that guarantees its own overpowers and deals a multiple of its normal damage as poisoning over 7 seconds. Pulverizing then causes all close puddles to splash a percentage of their total damage within their areas around them. Plus, this item innately gives you a high chance for Pulverize to hit twice. You're doing massive AoE damage with this build as you're laying down your puddles. It's pretty simple to play, and it's actually a ranged build thanks to the shockwave aspect that makes Pulverize shoot out a shockwave. Now there's a trick here. There's the melee hit, right? The Pulverize does an initial area around you, then it sends out a shockwave that explodes a little bit further. And against single targets, you can position yourself such that both are going to strike the same target. That is your ideal optimization against bosses. So yes, Overpower got massively nerfed in Season 9, but Overpower is still the star of this build, thanks to being able to guarantee multiple Overpowers. And guess what? That isn't even the only Druid build on this list. So, Druids, maybe you lost the Cataclysm as a top 10 build, but you're eating well in this season. That takes us to number 3, a Spiritborn build, Balazan's Rake. Spiritborn have a new item this season, Balazan's Max Tolotl. Each attack damages close enemies for a percentage of your thorns and also deals 100% of this damage as poisoning over 3 seconds. Each time you've retaliated with thorns for 5 seconds, the poisoning damage is increased by 100% up to 300%. This poison damage over time effect is going to pair with our Noxious Resonance passive. Your critical strikes cause your poisoning on an enemy to burst, dealing 180% of the total poisoning instantly to them and 20% of the burst to surrounding enemies before removing the poisoning effect from the primary target. So we're applying a poison dot, and then we're removing that poison dot to do a damage explosion on a bunch of enemies, and we're just doing this constantly. Now finally, Razor Plate is useful here. We can stack a ton of Thorns damage on Razor Plate. We're also using the Jaguar and the Spirit Hall. Every 15th time you deal direct damage to an enemy with a Jaguar skill, unleash an additional strike dealing 15% of the damage you have dealt to them in the last 0.5 seconds. So damage windows are very important to play this build optimally. And something you're going to use to boost your damage window is the Qax, Q-A-X, Rune of Invocation. Casting a skill other than a basic skill consumes all your primary resource to increase your damage up to 100% for 1 second. So you want to make sure that your Jaguar snapshot is grabbing that 100% damage buff. Plus, another thing you want in that snapshot is going to be Plains Power. On a lucky hit, you're going to cast a Mystic Circle on the ground. If you are inside that Mystic Circle, you will increase your damage by 5% per ferocity stack you're going to have, which comes out to a pretty significant multiplier. You also want to make sure that your Hunter ultimate is popped in that damage window, because again, it's snapshotting all the damage that you're dealing in the last half second. So if you're playing this build and you're not really paying attention to what you're doing, you're going to see sometimes, oh, like why am I suddenly doing no damage and suddenly doing a ton of damage? And this is a build with a high skill ceiling because you want to be focusing and learning how to really work through the nuances of getting the timings right. Now, there's a few different ways to run Balazans. The Rake version is just using Rake as your primary way of dealing the damage necessary. And this is actually the easiest version to run. And that takes us to our number 2 build, another Spiritborn build, another Balazan build, but it is the Quill Volley Balazan. Spiritborn is in an amazing position this season relative to their barely clinging to the pity vote of rank 10 in last season. So again, between Rake and Quill Volley will be much more difficult to run, your positioning will matter more, and it's going to be harder to manage your cooldowns. Altogether though, this has the potential to be the number 1 build in the game. And the reason there's some doubt here right now is we need to talk about a number 1 build. And you're probably wondering, hey, we've gone through 9 builds, 10 technically. Where's my sorcerer? That takes us to number 1, the Sorcerer Hydra build. Now, going into the season, no one expected Hydra to perform this well, and right now, it's actually performing impossibly well. I'm actually surprised Blizzard has not hotfixed this yet or patched it. And right after I finished editing and rendering this video, Blizzard did indeed fix the bugged interaction. So the change here now is that this build is rank 3 instead of rank 1. So the 2 Spiritborn builds are rank 1 and 2. It's a lot of fun. It's making use of the new unique, the Ophidian Iris. Hydra is now a core skill, so you can build synergies around that, and always summons a 3-headed Hydra whose attacks explode on impact. For each head above 3 that it would have had, the Hydra instead grows larger and deals increased damage. So you're getting big boy Hydra heads here. So normally you can have up to 18 heads on a Hydra if you can believe it, so that translates into humongo Hydra heads. We combine this, of course, with the Serpentine aspect. Hydra deals increased damage per mana you had when summoned, so you really want to be casting it when you are at max mana. This also means you want to stack effects that are going to increase your max mana, including a Elixir of Resourcefulness Mark II to squeeze out that much more extra power. You can only have 2 Hydras summoned at once, and a Hydra lasts 10 seconds, so the build playstyle is relatively chill. So that's going to wrap up my top 10. But folks, sound off in the comments with your top builds of Season 9. Thanks for watching. Special thanks to my Patreon supporters who make these videos possible. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to join Rhykker's Raiders for more Diablo content.